First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Yahweh is who this world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is who this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Bahashim means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Kodash means holy. That's on the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Today I wanted to redo my video I made yesterday since it looks like the audio was cut out. It turns out it was just on my end. My mic was just turned off. But pretty much going into how the cavemen were only Edomites, not everybody else, right? And go into the history of where that idea comes from, right? And how it's propagated. Okay, but this is 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 27. It says, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which hath been so long without fruit, shall be declared." Okay, and that's what's happening right now. Right, is that that covering cast over those mountains? You can read that in Isaiah. Right, the veil of lies is pretty much being destroyed. Right, people are waking up to who they are, that they're Israelites, right, and then that the Bible is the truth, right, the prophecies that are going on. Okay, and this is just part of it, right? Part of that waking up is waking up to what happened during the so-called Middle Ages, right? What happened during the so-called Dark Ages, okay, and understanding that that time period was actually biblical, right? It was Bible prophecy, right? And during that time period, you had the so-called white people, which are Edomites. They go back to Esau, Edom, right? You had the Edomites. They were at the bottom of the barrel, right? They were the so-called cavemen, wild men, right? And you can see that in a picture right here, right? But first, let's get the history, right? Let's get the context of that thousand-year prophecy, or what they call today is the so-called Dark Ages. This is Revelation chapter 20, verse 1. It says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years." Right? And now when you read dragon, serpent, devil, Satan, that might trip you up, and you might think it's talking about spiritual Satan, right? A real dragon. No, it's all symbolic. Right, the dragon here is talking about the dragon in Revelation with the 7 heads and 10 horns, which is talking about the Edomite empires. Right, GMS actually has a chart for that. Right, search up GMS beast chart, 10 heads, 7 heads, 10 horns. Right, and this is pretty much the breakdown. Right, just in a picture. Okay, you have Germania Major, the Romans, French, Spanish, Germania Minor, British, Greeks. Right, and the 7 heads, 7 government or kingdoms ruled by Esau. Right, so when you read the dragon, it's talking about Esau, Edom. Right, there's another scripture where it goes into how the red dragon was loosed. Right, I think it was the second seal. Right, and the red dragon was loosed, and he had a great sword. Right, talking about the Edomites. Right, because that was one of their blessings was the sword. Right, go back and go read Genesis. Also, Esau's name was changed to Edom, right? Because Edom means red, Adawam in the Hebrew, right? Because they're not white, they're red. But let's keep reading, right? Dragon, talking about the 7 heads, 10 horns, right? The Edomites. Old serpent, talking about back in the garden, right? The spirit of the wicked, right? Because this is a whole nother lesson, but back in the garden in Genesis where it says that Eve pretty much was talking with the serpent, right? It wasn't an actual serpent, it was a man, right? With serpentile features, right? Because during that time period, you had other people alive besides Adam and Eve, right? A key way to prove that is Cain, right? It says that Cain, when Adam and Eve were together, they had Cain and Abel, so they were technically, well, this is what the church says, technically they were the only ones, right? But then it says that Cain went out and went to another village and found a wife. How is that possible if they were the only ones, right? There were other people on the earth, right? And that as when it talks about serpent, right, it was a man with serpentine features, right? Deceptive, cunning, okay, and ultimately it was the spirit of the wicked. It says which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now let's go into that word devil and Satan. It's diabolos in the Greek, right? And this says prone to slander, slanders, accusing falsely, a calumniator, false accuser, slander, right? Metaphorically applied to a man who, by opposing the cause of God, may be said to act the part of the devil or to side with him, right? So it doesn't have to be a spiritual demon, right? It could just be a person, a man that acts like a devil, right? And that's exactly what the Edomites do, right? That they are the physical counterpart of Satan here on earth, right? The wicked, okay? And that, hey, there's nothing you can do about it. That's just the way the Heavenly Father has designed it. Let's go into the word Satan. Same thing, adversary. One who opposes another in purpose or act. The name given to, then he goes on to all these definitions, but this is the one we want. A Satan-like man. Okay, it's not talking about spiritual demon Satan. It's talking about a Satan-like man. Okay, so now with all that context, right, we can understand that it's talking about the Edomites. Right, they're the Edomites, Esau. They were bound for 1,000 years. Right. It says, and cast into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season, right? And let's look up how long were the Middle Ages. Roughly 1,000 years. Okay. The medieval era, often called the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages, began around 476 AD, following a great loss of power throughout Europe by the Roman Emperor. The Middle Ages span roughly 1,000 years, ending between 1400 and 1450. Okay, so let's go back to Revelation chapter 20. It says, and cast him into the bottomless pit. Right, the bottomless pit is talking about Europe. And shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more. Right, during those 1,000 years, right, he had a spiritual seal upon him that no matter what these people wanted to do, they were not going to gain power. Right, they were going to be at the bottom. Right, and that's how they ended up being in this estate. Right, so-called cavemen. Right, that's where the word is funny. They're called Caucasians. Right, because they come from the Caucasus Mountains. Right, the word Caucasian means cave dweller. Right, look it up. But says that they had a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season, right? And we are in that little season, right? Because he has been loosed, right? After those 1,000 years, right? You had what we call the Renaissance, right? Which the word Renaissance means rebirth, right? Rebirth of who? Rebirth of the Roman Empire, rebirth of the Edomites. Right, because the Roman Empire fell in 400 whatever, and it came back in 1400, right, which it was ran by the Edomites. Right, it was all talking about this prophecy, and it was fulfilled, and we are in that little season, right. After that, he must be loosed a little season. Why does it say a little season? Because Yahushua the Messiah is coming back to take the kingdom, right? He's coming back to take order of this world. So ultimately, it's not gonna last forever. Right, it's only for a little season. But let's get into the pictures now. Right, the wild men and Moors. Right, so during this entire period, right, where you had the Edomites during the so-called Dark Age, so-called Middle Ages, the 1,000-year prophecies, they're at the bottom of the barrel. Right, and while they're at the bottom of the barrel, you had the Israelites, dark-skinned people over there in Europe, ruling all of Europe. Okay, all of it. Okay, and I'm going to get a letter of Benjamin Franklin talking about the Germans, Franks, the Saxons, right? The Italians, or whatever. You can go down the list, going into how they're dark-skinned people, right? Going into how he didn't want to bring that dark-skinned people over to America because it would stain the white supremacy, right? He actually said that. But let's read some of this here. It says, wild men and Moors, right? The Moors were Israelites that believed in Islam in 1440 circa, right? Call halal Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Says this remarkable medieval tapestry depicts a battle between giant wild men, clothed only in forest products or perhaps their own hair, and the civilized defenders of a castle. Of course, most notable is the contrast in skin color and the reversal of our expectations. That white should denote civilization, and black the lack thereof, right? And that's funny they point that out, right? Which shows you the white supremacy that has been instilled, right? How um, that social construct that they made, right, with black and white. There's no such thing as a black person. There's no such thing as a white person, right? That's a social construct to keep people in categories, right? Because as it says, black means the lack thereof, dirty, impure, no order, right? Chaos. While white means pure, right? Holy, sanctified, angels, right? That's how they portray things. White is clean, okay? It says, but the wild giants with their unkept hair and beards attack with sticks and stones. In the other two sections of the tapestry, they battle with the lion, a dragon, and a unicorn, heraldic symbols representing authority and power, and then present gifts of wild game to a mother and child in a cave. In case we were in any doubt as to the levels of civility among these white men, one of the gift givers has prominent fangs. The black defenders, by contrast, inhabit a fortified castle and fight with bows and arrows. The men's neatly groomed beards, robes, and headbands identify them as Saracens or perhaps as black converts to Christianity. Their king, queen, and princess watched anxiously from the keep while heralds called out for assistance. Right? So, hey, it tells you that, hey, look at the pictures. Right? They had sticks, right? Just hair all over their body, okay? Unkept hair, stones, okay? And pretty much they're attacking the Israelites, the dark skinned people, right? Because it was part of that prophecy where they had a seal upon them that no matter what they could do, no matter what they wanted to do, they were going to be at the bottom. They were going to be the basest of men, the most vile of the vile, okay? And Job even talked about this, right? Because there's a lot of prophecies in Job. This is Job. It says Job's present state is humiliating, right? But it wasn't talking about Job, right? It was talking about the Edomites, right? In this state, it says, verse 3: For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. Right, they were pretty much just being vegetarians, if you want to put it that way. Right, they were out here finding whatever they can through the grass. Right, mallows. Let's look that up. Mallows going into, yeah, some type of plant. Not this shit, man. Shows you how infiltrated this world is. Right, a plant. By the bushes and juniper roots for their meats, right? So imagine them just scaring, right, through the bushes, right, looking up crazy if you see them, making all these noises. It says they were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, right? They were driven out of societies, right? They were pretty much castaways, not let into kingdoms, right? Because that was part of the prophecy. And they cried after them as after a thief, right? Mad. That's why we see this picture. Okay, they were pissed off, trying to fight back, trying to cause a rebellion, but none of it would work out. It says, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in caves of the earth, and in the rocks, right? So that's where you get cavemen, okay? That's where you get cave dweller, Caucasian, okay? Because it was this people, right? It was these people. And what they did when they came back into power in the Renaissance, in the rebirth, right, is that they started saying that everybody were cavemen, right? They came with that evolution theory, right? Which in the schools, they don't push it as a theory anymore. They push it as fact, right? They say, yup, we were all monkeys. Yup, we all come from these people. Yup, we were all at one point eating rats and berries and out here living wild. Okay, wild men. Right? You can actually search up wild men, and they have all these so-called fairy tales, right? Like this, right? But those were the Edomites. Okay, those were the Edomites unkept, so-called white people, right? Let's actually look into this real quick. Let's see what it says. The wild man of the woods, or woodwose, is a mythical figure and motif that appears in the art and literature of medieval Europe. Comparable to the satyr faun type in classical mythology and to Sylvanus, a Roman god of the woodlands, blah blah blah. Right? This was in the first attested in the 1340s. So during that time period when they were at the bottom. Okay? And these were the Edomites. Right? This is not a mythical figure. This is a real thing. Okay, that's what they look like. Okay, unkept hair, exactly how we saw right here. Okay, those were the cavemen, not everybody else. But we've been told in school, evolution, we all come like this because they're trying to hide their history. Okay, they're trying to hide their history. And also Bible prophecy. Let's keep on going. It says, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys and caves of the earth, and in the rocks, among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth, right? Because just imagine all types of atrocities that they were committing, right? Eating raw meat, right? That actually goes back to Esau, right? When he ate that what's it called? That soup, right? Which pretty much was a raw meat, right? With lentil soup, right? It goes back to Esau, right? That's why these so-called white people, Edomites, they love eating their shit raw, okay? Just because it was their forefathers, right? So just imagine them, right? One of their blessings was a sword, right? They were cunning hunters, right? That was the blessing of Esau, is that they were cunning hunters and that they had the sword. So just imagine them out here killing animals, right? Just being absolute savages, children of fools, children of base men. They were viler than the earth, right? And this offends you if you're a so-called white person, right? An Edomite, right? Hey, this is history. Look it up, right? I came across this website, and it shows you all the pictures, right? This is straight facts. And another point is that not all so-called white people are Edomites, right? You could be an Israelite depending on your spirit, right? Because Israel is scattered through all four corners of the earth, right? Majority of Israelites are so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, and so-called Native Americans. But you also have Israelites that look like white people. But if your forefathers, right, if your fathers goes back to being of the seed of Israel, you are an Israelite. You're considered an Israelite foreigner, right? One that looks like the other nations, right, but is still an Israelite. If that made any sense, okay? But just wanted to get that out there. But let's go now to, so we got Job 30 talking about their appearance, how they were acting. We got Revelation 20 going into the 1,000 years they're at the bottom, right, and proving that. But now let's go into the Benjamin Franklin letter, right, which really solidifies it. If you were doubting anymore, right, if you were doubting, this should just hit it home, right? So Benjamin Franklin had a letter in 1775 talking about, let's read it up here, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tawny, right? The word tawny, I searched it up yesterday, goes into orange brown or yellowish brown color, pretty much like a light skin, right? So they said all of Africa is pretty much dark skin or light skin. It says Asia chiefly tawny, right? America exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so, right? The same way with those so-called Latinos, so-called Native Americans. A lot of us are light skin, right? Very light brown. It says in Europe, okay, this is the key point. And in Europe, the Spaniards, the Italians, the French, the Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. Okay, now let's look and see what swarthy means. Dark skinned, dark colored, dark skin, dark complexioned, right? Why does it say that? Why is he saying that all the people over there in Europe, all these Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, Swedes, Germans, were of swarthy complexion? Why does he say that? Because they were the ones in power, right? They were the ones in power for all those 1,000 years, right? And you have pictures about it, right? You have pictures that prove this. This right here proves that, okay? It proves Revelation 20, proves Job chapter 30. Let's look through this. Let's look through this a little bit. Let's see what other pictures we can get. Right? You can search up let's say Black Mary, right? Black Madonna, right? Which you have a picture of the Pope literally bowing down, right, and praying to this, right? Because this is what Mary looked like, and Yahushua the Messiah looked like, dark skin, okay. And they'll try to say, oh, these pictures are dirty, right? These pictures are not clean, right? Over time they got dirty, right? Just a bunch of just no shame, man. Just straight liars, as it says in Job chapter 13 and verse 4. You are all forgers of lies, right? Physicians of no value. You're all forgers of lies, physicians of no value. You can also search up Russian icons, which also shows more dark skin pictures, right? Here you have what they portray as the Messiah. You have to remember that even from back to the Greek Empire, when you had Alexander the Great ruling, they were changing the pictures, right? Because that's what they did all the way back in the Greek Empire, Roman Empire, right? In the Renaissance, right? Especially in the Renaissance when they came back, around the 1500s, is that they changed all the pictures, right? They changed all the pictures to look like them. And for some reason, I'm not getting the pictures I want to see. Uh, Google is changing a lot what you can find. Let's look at this right here. Right? Look at that. Dark skinned men. How can you make that up? You can't. Let me see what language that is. I don't think that's the Hebrew. Either way. Yeah, like I was saying, they was changing the pictures, right? They were committing what's called iconoclasm. Let's get that word. The rejection or destruction of religious images is heretical. The doctrine of iconoclasts, right? Pretty much destroying images, right? Painting over those images and calling them, like calling them yourself, right? Painting them in your own way. And there's this one man that's been recently in controversy over that. Forgot his name. Uh, the apostle went over it the other day, right? But pretty much they said they did the same thing over him. Let me see if I can find his video real quick on my phone, so I can pull out that information, right, to show you that they did this. Wow, it always slips my mind when it comes time to remember things off the top. Hannibal, that was his name. Hannibal. Hannibal Carthage, right? He wasn't a white man, okay, as they pointed out to be, right? Hannibal Carthage. This man that they portray right here, he didn't look like that. He was a dark-skinned man, right? There's controversy going right now because they're trying to put a Denzel as the man in Hannibal, right? But if you search up Hannibal Carthage coins, right, this is what you get. You get an image of a so-called Negro on the coin with woolly hair, right? Why is that? Right? Why is that? Okay. Look at it. Picture. Right? Because he was a dark-skinned man during this time you had the Israelites ruling. Okay? All of Europe was being controlled by dark-skinned people. Brown. But what they did, right? What they did when the Greeks or the Romans came back into power is that they changed this picture to look like them. Okay? They changed the picture to look like them. Right? White. Edomites. Okay? And let's get some scriptures on that. This is First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 47. We'll start at verse 46. It says, wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mashpah over against Jerusalem. For in Mashpah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day, and put on sackcloth, and cast ashes upon their heads, and rent their clothes, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen have sought to paint the likeness of their images. Right? So right there it tells you clearly that these heathen, right, these other nations, especially the Edomites, they were trying to paint the likeness of their images, what they look like, into the Bible, into the pictures of the Bible. Okay? And that's exactly what they have done. Okay? Here's a clear example. Hannibal, right? Change it to this. Clear example, the Messiah, right? This is what he looks like now. They call him Jesus, right? They call him Jesus, right? And they painted him in his own image. But Revelation chapter 1 tells you clearly he doesn't look like that. Let's deviate a little bit. There's Revelation chapter 1 and verse 14. It says, his head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow. So giving you the complexion of the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, right? They were white like wool, as white as snow, woolly white hair. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as they have burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Right? So his feet were like unto fine brass burnt in a furnace. Right? So dark, dark brown. Okay, anything that you burn turns dark. So imagine brass. It's gonna get very, very dark. Okay, so he had white woolly hair and he was dark. Who fits that criteria? The so-called Negro, right? Not these people over there in the Holy Land with small little black hats, right? They are Edomites. Okay, they are Edomites of the tribe of Amalek. Okay, but let's get Job chapter 9 and verse 24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right? And the earth right now is given into the hand of the wicked. Right? The Edomites are ruling. Right? And the Edomites have been classified as the wicked. We'll go into that after I finish the scripture. But it says, the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. Right? Who are the judges? Right? Other words, the saints. It's talking about the Israelites. If not, where and who is he? Right? If it's not the so-called white man, who is it? Right? And that's exactly what they did. Right? That's exactly what they did in the Greek Empire, in the Roman Empire, right? The Renaissance, is that they covered the faces of the judges. Right? They covered the faces of the Israelites. Right? They took away our heritage. Right? Completely, and you can't find information on where the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American comes from. Right? Because they've covered it. You can't find ancient pictures, right, easily because they covered it, right? Because it's not convenient for them to show the world that information. Because if they show the information of where these people come from, where the Israelites come from, that means that would completely dissolve their lies, right? Let's go back to that Benjamin Franklin letter and read a little bit more. It says, as and in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also, the Saxons only expected, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. I could wish their numbers were increased, and while we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of inhabitants in Mars or Venus, why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people? Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red? But perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind of partiality is natural to man. Right? But clearly, what I said is factual. Right? All Europe in the so-called Middle Ages was ruled by dark-skinned people. Okay? And now let's deal with the fact of the Edomites being the wicked, right? And how they were put up to rule right now, and how we can prove that, right? But this is Malachi chapter 1. Let's start at verse 1, talking about those 1,000 years. It says, the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith Yahweh, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Right? They were pretty much put to the bottom of society. It says, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Right? That's exactly what they did. Right? At one point, they were impoverished. Right? They were made waste. They were at the bottom of the barrel. They had that seal upon them for 1,000 years. Okay? But they returned and they built the desolate places. It says, talking about the Renaissance, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the border of wickedness, right? The wicked, and the people against whom Yahweh hath indignation forever. And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, Yahweh will be magnified from the border of Israel. So right there, right, it tells you, talking about when they came back from being at the bottom, and talking about also how they shall build, but I will throw down, right? And that lines completely up with Revelation 20, that it says that they must be loosed a little season, right? Why are they going to be loosed a little season? Because, where were we? Because Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai is going to throw down, right? He's going to come back to take them out of power, right? And to set up the kingdom of heaven, right? That's another way we can prove that the Edomites are in power right now, right? Because if we go to 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9, it says, "For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." Right? What is that talking about? It's talking about rulerships, kingdoms, right? The kingdom of Jacob is talking about the kingdom of heaven when Jacob, Israel, the Israelites are ruling forever, right? So before that happens, right, it says Esau is the end of the world, which implies Esau has to be ruling, right? And let's get that in Daniel chapter, we'll go to Daniel chapter 2, right? Because it tells you clearly about the four kingdoms that were going to rule the earth before the kingdom of heaven. The first one that you had was the Assyrian Babylonian kingdom, right? The Assyrian Babylonian kingdom. Then you had the Medo-Persian kingdom. Then you had the Greek kingdom. And then you have the Roman Empire, which this is what we're in right now. We're in the Roman Empire at the last end, right? We're at the toes. Okay? And after the toes, or after the Roman Empire, you have the divine kingdom, right? Which is when Israel is ruling forever, right? Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, as it says right here. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob's the beginning of it that followeth. So with that, we can prove, right, that the Edomites are ruling right now. Right? The Edomites are ruling Rome, right? They have the Roman Empire. Okay? Because the divine kingdom is Jacob. If I can't make that any more clear. Right? So, having that in mind, right, let's see where can we go now? Where can we go now? Right? In my other lesson, man, that other video I made that had no audio, hey, I was in the spirit, man. I was bringing up some points that are just not going to come to my head right now. Right? So we got Malachi. We got Daniel. No, we didn't get Daniel. This is Daniel chapter 4 and verse 17. It says, "This matters by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the bases of men." Right? Right now he has set up the bases of men, the most vile of men, as we read in Job chapter 30, to rule the earth. And that's why we are in this predicament. Right? That's why people are complaining. Right? Because everything is being ruled by a wicked oppressor. Right? When the wicked rule, the people mourn. Right? But when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. And the people are mourning right now. Right? Everything is set out of course because wickedness is being propagated as the norm. Okay, and when that happens, you have chaos. Right? When you have that lifestyle of do whatever you want, you have chaos because there is no order. Right? Let's see if we can get a little bit more pictures here. 100, 1,000 to 1,500. The Emperor routine. Nope. Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Right? Dark-skinned man. And I was looking through some of these the other day. The Black Saint Maurice. Okay. Dark-skinned man. Woolly hair. Right? Dark-skinned man. Clearly. Wow. That's a beautiful picture, man. Dark skin. And this is the estate the Israelites are going to come back to. And we're going to come back to being a ruling class people. We're going to come back to being kings and priests and being pretty much looked after, right? Looked at as royalty, because that's what we are, right? So-called the Israelites, as scriptures say, we are better than every single nation. We are the salt of the earth, right? And we are a nation of kings, rulers, and priests. And we're going to come back to that estate. You best believe it, right? But Yahweh the Messiah, has to take down this empire first, right? And I deviated a little bit off the topic of what I was going into, of how the so-called cave people, right? This right here, how the cavemen were only Edomites, not everybody else, right? And what they did is that they painted that history to include everybody, so they can hide that it was just them, right? And what I was going into before the video ends, I wanted to bring this out since I brought it out in the other video, right? Their lies are crumbling, right? Their lies are crumbling right in front of us, right? Especially their identity of who they are, right? These people, the Edomites, right? The people you have over there in the Holy Land with the small little black hats, they are not Israelites. They are not Jews. They are Edomites, right? And you can prove that by Ezekiel chapter 36 and verse 5. You can prove that by Luke chapter 21 and verse 24, going into how the land was going to be trodden of the Gentiles, so the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, which the time of the Gentiles is when the Messiah comes back to destroy this place, right? Ezekiel chapter 36 verse 5 goes into how all the residue of Idumea have appointed my land into their possession, right? And they're pretty much laughing, right? Which that's exactly what's happening right now. Idumea is the Greek way of saying Edom, right? The Edomites are over there in the land rejoicing, right? Another cut that makes no sense, right, is that they call themselves Ashkenazi Jews, right? Ashkenazi Jews, right? Ashkenazi Jewish, right? Which that is completely contrary and cannot happen, right? Because for you to be a Jew, right? I'm gonna pull out the Genesis real quick. For you to be a Jew, that means that you're of the tribe of Judah, right? And that means you're an Israelite. And the Israelites go back to Shem, right? They're Shemites. But there is no Ashkenazi, there is no Ashkenaz in the line of Shem, right? Because Ashkenaz goes back to Japhet, right? This is Genesis chapter 10 and verse 1. It says, "Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, Japhet. And then to them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japhet were Gomer and Magog and Madai, and Javan and Tubal and Meshach and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz and Rephath and Togarmah." So how can you be an Ashkenazi Jew? That means you would be parts of two bloodlines, which is not possible. You can only be part of one bloodline. You either go back to Shem, Ham, or Japhet, right? Which right there shows you that what they're propagating, right, what they're pushing does not make sense. You can't be an Ashkenazi Jew, right? The Jews are Shemites. The Ashkenazis are Japhetic, and you can't be both, right? But ultimately, like I said, we'll end with that. I think that's Isaiah chapter 25 and verse 7, if I have it on the top, right? It says, "And he will destroy in this mountain," right? Mountain is referring to government, right? Rulership. "The face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations," right? Going into the lies, right? And that's exactly what's happening via the prophets, right? We're completely destroying all their narratives, all their lies, and bringing out truth, biblical truth, right? And tying it to secular history, if you want to even do that, right? We're proving a tit for tat, right? What it really is, right? And if you can't see it, then hey, throw out prayers, because this is undeniable at this point, okay? Undeniable. Especially with those scriptures I gave you in Ezekiel chapter 36 verse 5 and Luke chapter 21 and verse 24, right? They can't be those people over there in the Holy Land. They can't be the Israelites, because Jeremiah chapter 16 goes into how the Messiah, right, he's gonna gather the Israelites out of all four corners of the earth and bring them back to the Holy Land, right? We're not gonna go by there by ourselves over there and do our thing. No, the Messiah is gonna take us back there, right? And it's gonna be something worldwide. And the Messiah hasn't came back yet, right? Also, when we're back in the Holy Land, there's not going to be any more war, right? The nations are not going to know war anymore. Also, the law, statutes, and commandments are going to be pretty much mandatory throughout the entire earth, right? We don't see that, okay? We don't see that at all. If what's the other word? In what we do see is wickedness, right? Also, another cut, right? And now I'm just bringing out truth, right? Sometimes it just has to come out. Another cut is that before the Messiah comes, right, the Israelites were supposed to be at the bottom of the barrel, right? We were supposed to be Proverbs, bywords, under the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28, the 15th verse, all the way down to the 68th verse, right? Catching hell, right? Not being in rulership, Okay, and those people over there in the Holy Land with small little black hats, they don't fit that criteria, right? Because they rule everything. They have control over the entire earth because they are Edom. They are Esau. They are Edomites, and this is their kingdom. But right now, what they're doing is that they're throwing the rock and hiding their hand, right? They're hiding their identity. They're lying, right? And it's only a matter of time till the entire earth sees who they truly are, and it's happening. Okay. Went a little bit off topic, but hey, it's all facts at the end of the day, and the truth is gonna come out. But hopefully this is edifying with that. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakak, Wadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone, the time of this truth. Shalom to Shalom.